the heart of this nation, under skies so blue,
there's a spirit that's stirring, values strong and true.
from the mountains to the prairies, from the cities to the sea, we stand for liberty, for faith and family. We're diving deep into the heart of what we believe.
Welcome to Deep Dive Podcast Show. Don't forget to leave a like, share, and subscribe. We've got a really compelling and frankly quite heated topic to dive into today. We're talking about the judiciary, but not in the way you might expect. Specifically, we're looking at some strong calls from Texas Representative Brandon Gill, who isn't just suggesting, but actually pushing for judges to face impeachment and subpoenas. Now, that's not something you hear every day, is it? Can you unpack for us what's behind this very bold move?
You're absolutely right. It's pretty unusual to see a sitting congressman advocating for impeaching judges, but Representative Gill's stance really stems from what he calls judicial tyranny. He believes that some judges are essentially stepping out of their traditional roles, taking off their robes, so to speak, and acting more like political operatives. He sees them as, actively working on behalf of one political party, specifically the Democrats, to obstruct the agenda of President Trump. It's about perceived overreach and politicization of the courts, in his view, which he finds deeply problematic for the balance of power and the democratic process. It's a very strong accusation, but he's got specific examples he's pointing to.
Judicial tyranny, that's a powerful phrase. It certainly evokes a sense of unchecked power. So when he talks about these examples, is there a particular judge or a specific ruling that really ignited this for him? Because I understand there's one individual, Judge James Jeb Boasberg, who seems to be at the center of this controversy.
Absolutely. Judge James Jeb Boasberg is a central figure in Gill's criticism. Boasberg, who was appointed by President Obama, serves as the chief judge for the U.S. District Court for the District of Columbia. Now, the incident that really pushed Gill to file articles of impeachment against him happened back in March. It involved a ruling where Judge Boasberg essentially went against President Trump's administration regarding the deportation of Venezuelan illegal immigrants. Trump was trying to use a specific law, often referred to as the Alien Enemies Act, to send these individuals on a deportation flight to El Salvador. But Boasberg, in his ruling, actually ordered that these flights be turned around mid-air. Can you imagine the logistical and legal complexities there? Gill saw this as a clear and obvious abuse of power, a politicization of the court that directly undermined the president's authority and, in his words, deposited terrorists and illegal aliens back into American communities. It's a very vivid and dramatic example of what he considers judicial overreach.
Wow, ordering a flight to turn around mid-air, that's incredibly dramatic and definitely raises a lot of questions about the limits of judicial power. So if Representative Gill is pursuing impeachment, can you walk us through what that process actually entails? For those who might not be familiar, what does it take to actually impeach a federal judge?
Of course. The impeachment process for a federal judge, much like for a president, begins in the House of Representatives. It requires a simple majority vote in the House to pass articles of impeachment. If that happens, the process then moves to the Senate. In the Senate, a trial would take place, and for a judge to actually be removed from office, it requires a 2/3 majority vote. So while a House vote to impeach is significant, the real hurdle, the much higher bar, is in the Senate. It's a serious and, as we've seen, often politically charged process that's not undertaken lightly. Gill has already taken that first step, filing those articles against Judge Boasberg, indicating he's very serious about this.
That's a tough road, requiring significant bipartisan support in the Senate, which, is always a challenge in today's political climate. But impeachment isn't the only tool Representative Gill is talking about, is it? He's also pushing for congressional hearings, suggesting judges should testify under oath. What's the aim there, and are there other specific issues he wants to address through these hearings?
That's right. Impeachment is the ultimate step, but getting judges to testify under oath in congressional hearings is another significant and arguably more achievable goal in the short term. Gill is really pushing for this because he believes it's essential for oversight and transparency. He's hopeful and actively advocating that these investigations lead to judges being compelled to answer for their actions before Congress. A major point of contention he wants to delve into revolves around something called the Arctic Frost investigation. This was a Department of Justice probe reportedly initiated under President Biden's administration into alleged attempts to overturn the 2020 presidential election results. What really concerns Gill and many other conservatives is that judges, including Boasberg, allegedly signed gag orders that hid details of this investigation. Even more alarmingly, it's rumored that this probe involved tapping the phones of, get this, 8 Republican senators. I mean, if that's true, it raises massive questions about government surveillance and the targeting of political opponents. Gill wants to bring these judges and anyone else involved before Congress under oath with cameras rolling to answer for what he sees as weaponizing the federal government against political enemies. It's about accountability for actions he views as deeply undemocratic.
Tapping the phones of sitting senators as part of an investigation into election challenges and then gag orders to keep it quiet? That sounds like something straight out of a political thriller. It's certainly a huge allegation. So if these hearings were to happen, what do you think Representative Gill and his allies hope to achieve? Is it just about public exposure, or are they looking for a more tangible outcome?
I think it's a combination of both, frankly. On one hand, there's absolutely a desire for public exposure. Gill mentioned he wants these hearings under oath with cameras on, which highlights the intent to inform the public and generate awareness about these alleged abuses. He feels that, quote, every major conservative organization, multiple sitting senators, pundits across the conservative spectrum were targeted in this Arctic Frost investigation, and those involved need to answer for that. So shining a light on these activities is crucial. But beyond that, he's looking for tangible accountability. While impeachment is difficult, these hearings could uncover evidence that strengthens calls for impeachment or, at the very least, could lead to reforms or stricter oversight measures for judicial conduct and government investigations. It's about setting a precedent, really, that judges and federal agencies are not above scrutiny, especially when their actions appear politically motivated or infringe on the rights of elected officials. It's a strong push to rein in what he perceives as an overreaching and weaponized judiciary, aiming to restore what he believes is the proper balance of power.
It really sounds like a battle over the separation of power and the role of the judiciary in our system. Representative Gill is certainly not holding back in his efforts to challenge what he views as significant abuses. We'll definitely be watching to see how these calls for impeachment and congressional hearings develop. It's a complex situation with high stakes for all branches of government. Thank you so much for breaking that down for us. It really clarifies the nuances of this unfolding story.
My pleasure. It's certainly a story with a lot of layers, and one that highlights some deep divisions and concerns about the integrity and impartiality of our judicial system. We'll have to see if Gill's persistent campaign gains the traction needed to bring these judges before Congress or even move forward with impeachment in the long run. It's a conversation that's far from over. Thanks for listening to Deep Dive Podcast Show.